Good morning and a very warm welcome to the Meiji Jingu Shrine here in beautiful central Tokyo. Guys, today I'm flying with JAL for the very first time right over the North Pole, 14 hours or so back to London's Heathrow in the business class. As I say, it's going to be the first time for me, first time for the channel. Let's get into it. Well, early morning here in Tokyo. Thankfully not too cold. I'm massively looking forward to this one. I hear such amazing things about JAL. The Uber's going to be here in 2 seconds. I'm going to stop blabbling. Let's get on our way down to the airport and let's get checked in with JAL back to London. As airport Uber rides go, this had to be a world beater. I lived in Dubai for quite some time and thought Dubai had the world's best Ubers. Clearly not. Tokyo was pretty awesome. As we arrived into the airport, there was a little surprise waiting for us. Japan Airlines brand new A350. Sadly, we won't be on that one today, but that will eventually replace some of the services that we check out in this video. Using Tokyo Hanaida's Terminal 3 was an absolute pleasure from start to finish. They had a dedicated business class check-in area. These were manned desks, but they had almost like a little self-serve area in terms of where you put your bag up. Needless to say, wonderfully efficient, and it wasn't long at all before I was heading for security, but they did have a priority lane for business class passengers. So that's the check-in and also security done. It's seamless as you'd expect here in Tokyo. Through now to the lounge. I've had a lot of luck, actually, I should say, this morning. The staff at the gate were able to move me over to a window seat. I wasn't able to select one when I booked the seat just due to a few IT issues on the code-share flight between BA and JAL. So really looking forward to that today. It should be a gorgeous takeoff. You can probably see the sun just rising up behind me on Mount Fuji this morning. It looked absolutely stunning. So hopefully we'll get a view of that. But for now, let's get through to the lounge. It was to be the Sakura Lounge that I had an invite to on that particular day. They were nice and easy to find just up from the stairs. That's where the main lounge access was. The lounge itself overall was pretty good, like so many airport lounges. However, in this day and age of flying, it was incredibly busy. That said, there seemed to be a good range of different facilities, a wonderful array of different food and also beverage options. I'd had an awful lot to eat and drink the night before, was a little bit hungover, so the busy lounge environment didn't play particularly well just for me. So shortly after this particular lounge, I was on the hunt for a slightly quieter spot, and we'll reveal that in just a moment. Before we do so, however, a quick word on some of the other facilities and also highlights in the lounge. Good number of charging spots throughout the lounge, some wonderful views out, some separate food stations. So if there is a particular area that's a little bit busy, you can go on through. The lounge just seems to go and go and go. The drinks areas were pretty cool. They were too smart for me on that particular morning. Complete fail in terms of getting the orange juice out just there. Overall, however, this would be a lounge that I definitely return to. It just seemed on that particular day it was incredibly busy. So for those of you with Sapphire Oneworld Alliance status or above, I would recommend checking out the Cathay Pacific Lounge on the top floor. Wonderfully quiet on that particular day. Clearly the phasing of the flight suited a lounge visit into Cathay Pacific, and enjoyed some absolutely phenomenal views back out over Tokyo Hanaida's airport and even back to the city. A rather phenomenal stay in the lounges. Now it's time to head down to the gate, and then it'll be time for the all-important boarding back to London. Well, here we go then. We're all set. I have to say, I was gutted to be leaving Japan. It was an absolutely phenomenal country, and a huge shout out to anyone watching this video in Japan. If you are, give me a little shout out in the comments. It would be truly wonderful to hear from you. Alrighty, so that's me jumping on board. Boarding process, nice and smooth so far, so looking forward to getting on and showing you these seats aboard the 777. Those of you who tune into the channel regularly will know that I like to kick things off with a quick look at the seat map. The business class on that particular day had a main cabin and then just one row. That row 5 would actually be quite an interesting one to go for. I was seated in 12A on that particular day. It was the only window seat I could get, but actually it worked really quite well indeed. JAL Sky Suite looks pretty similar actually to Gulf Air, so for those of you who are familiar with that one, it's the 232 across with the offsetted seating, so everyone has direct aisle access. This works incredibly well, and one of the big benefits of it is that you don't have a tunnel to put your legs down when you're sleeping, and you have a phenomenal amount of privacy, particularly in those window seats. I wouldn't, however, recommend one of those middle seats. I do think this might feel ever so slightly claustrophobic. The aisle seats did have a little bit of extra storage, but actually the window seats did have a little compartment that I saw right at the end of the very flight as well. Awaiting for me at the seat were some slippers, an amenity kit, a blanket, and also the headphones for the entertainment system. And here, by the way, is that small additional storage area. Overall, first impressions really quite good. Nice warm welcome from the crew after jumping on board. I wasn't expecting a brand new product, so this was very much in line with expectations, but the seat had everything that you would have looked for. Let's cover off charging really briefly. There was a semi-international plug socket adapter, didn't suit a UK socket, but it did have a USB, so make sure that you are carrying those cables when traveling with JAL. As for the rest of the storage, there was then a shelf at the end of the suite, and then also an area for flatter items such as books or even perhaps iPad style devices. Just down to your side was then the reading light, and then also the input for the headset as well. And finally, the main seat controls were just down to the side. The seat, whilst it was a little bit older, even had a massage function, so certainly can't complain on that particular front. That's us on board, very comfortable, I must say. Just had some champagne and bought around, so I'm going to enjoy that. Still quite early in the morning, I know, but then it'll be time to take off and hopefully some great views on the way out. The crew did a really fab job at the pre-takeoff service. We had the menus handed round, we'll get into those in more detail in a moment. That was then in addition to the champagne, but for now, time to push back. As we taxied, we had some absolutely fantastic views back to the city and then across to Mount Fuji. I was really keeping my fingers crossed that as we got airborne, those views would indeed be replicated. If this is your first time connecting with the channel, it'd be wonderful to have you subscribed. I've got so much similar content across the channel as it now nears its 2-year birthday, so hit that subscribe button and YouTube will keep you fully up to date with what's going on with the channel. With all that being said, it's now time to make our way out towards London. I'll turn the music down. You can enjoy this fantastic takeoff. We took off eastbound out to sea and away from the city, so my thoughts were that on this occasion I'd probably miss out on those wonderful views. However, all of a sudden, huge left bank turn, incredible views back over the city, unbelievable visibility, and then Mount Fuji came into view. All in all, absolutely wonderful departure, and I was so glad that I got a window seat on that particular morning, and better still, on the right side of the aircraft for the great views. Shortly after takeoff, it was then time to start a bit of exploration around the cabin. It was a wonderfully quiet flight, so that was good. In terms of bathrooms, nothing special. They were really quite small. I did like the slightly darker veneer. I thought that looked pretty smart. Overall, however, a little bit older hat, but they were kept really well stocked throughout the flight. Wonderfully clean as you'd expect, so top marks to JAL on that particular front. Arriving back to my seat, there was a warm towel waiting for me. It was then time to settle fully in and then also get the privacy divider in place. You do this just using the control panel just down to the side of the seat. Once this is then fully in place, you have a phenomenal amount of privacy, particularly in those window seats, and this particular view just here will give you an idea of exactly what it looks like. With the flight now fully underway, this is as good a time as ever to get into the entertainment and give you a nice little overview of that. The entertainment system itself, yeah, it was pretty old hat. For those of you that have driven a Lexus car, you'll know fully what I mean in terms of how the controls work. It's a touchpad and you click around. Actually, despite it being a little bit older, it worked really nicely indeed, but you can just see little touches from the mapping and the overall look and feel of it. It did look a generation or two behind. In terms of content, however, absolutely no complaints from me. There was a really good selection of different films to watch, and with this one being a 14-hour flight, it was nice that that was the case. Despite everything being that little bit older, the TV screen was absolutely massive. I think it was the biggest I've ever seen in any business class that I've flown in, and as you'd expect from Japan, the headset was Sony, and yeah, it worked really well indeed. And finally, let's talk Wi-Fi. The base offering here from JAL was really impressive. They have this global campaign for completely free Wi-Fi on flights. So throughout the entire journey of the flight, the usage was completely unlimited and you could use it right the way across the flight. Unfortunately, on this particular service, I'm not sure exactly what was wrong, but across all of my devices, I couldn't get any service for the duration of the flight. So a little bit of a letdown just there, but overall, pretty good marks to JAL for their Wi-Fi policy, at least. And returning to the touchscreen, that's actually a really nice segue into the meal service. Now you could order on the touchscreen, we'll check that out a little bit later, but the way it worked on this particular flight is they had a main meal service that was to be a lunch, and you could choose between a Japanese or a Western menu option. Beyond that, and 90 minutes into the flight, there was then an a la carte menu, and you could order as frequently and as much as you'd like. So I'll take full advantage of that, I promise, throughout the flight, just to bring all the various different choices to you, but that is broadly how the setup worked, and I have to say, it worked very well indeed. Shortly after takeoff, the cabin crew came round and took all of the various different orders. They then laid out the table for me. This was a slightly later shot just to show you how it works. Really nice and easy to put together. When the table was then in position, it was incredibly sturdy, great for dining, but also for working as well. So this particular design worked very nicely indeed. First proper drink in the hour I've gone with the white wine, so we'll see what that's like. It's a Chardonnay, but I've been recommended it by the crew, so it should be a good way to start. I've gone for the Japanese selection today as well, so kind of had to. I was flying with JAL, of course, out of their home base in Tokyo, so let's see how that one goes and how the rest of the meal service goes. Now I must say, as I ordered, there was so much on the menu, so I didn't pay attention to everything, so I didn't really know exactly what to expect. As the starter was brought out, however, it was this beautifully put together box. Everything was so wonderfully presented, and I must say, tasted really good and felt nice and light as well. The main course then followed suit really well. There was a little miso soup, and then also black cod was the mainstay of this particular dish. Again, wonderfully presented. In that little wrapper just there was the rice. Everything came together so well. There was then top-ups of the drinks. I stuck with the white wine throughout, and it worked particularly well with the fish. There was then a very light, small tea pudding for dessert. This was called a hojisha. Please let me know if I've mispronounced that particular one, and it all rounded off a wonderful food service. With us heading northeast directly over the Arctic region, the day was very quickly coming to a close. I'd had an incredibly early start, so it was a good time to get into the amenity kit and start thinking about bedding down. The amenity kit itself was one of the most unique I've ever seen in the skies. It was full of some quite useful little items, be it tissues, phone holders, charging cables, etc. There was then the usual lotions and potions you'd expect in such an amenity kit available in the bathrooms. I thought it was a really nice touch. The bed, when made up, looked and felt absolutely superb. Unlike so many other modern day business class designs, there was no tunnel to put your feet down, so a wonderful amount of room. The width in particular felt particularly good in this particular design of seat. As I woke from my sleep, there was an absolutely wonderful sunset going on just outside the aircraft. I felt that this was a good time to check out some of the additional lighting options in the suite and then also get into some of the additional food items. Now you can order directly from the a la carte menu just using the handheld device. The service was wonderfully efficient using this particular method. I went for the Wagyu curry and I must say it would be firmly within my top 3 favourite dishes I've ever had on any flight anywhere. If you find yourself flying with JAL in their business class, this is the dish to go for. This was all washed down with a fantastic glass of Pinot Noir, and just for filming purposes, I then went for the pork cutlet sandwich. This was also very good indeed. Following that, and again, just for filming purposes, of course, I went for the Haagen-Dazs ice cream, and it was a really nice accompaniment for a bit of a Harry Potter film marathon that I then went on. Whilst all this was playing out, we even had the Northern Lights on display. It was absolutely wonderful. Unfortunately, the camera couldn't pick this up. The best it could do was the wonderful sunrise that then followed. I skipped out on anything too major for breakfast and instead just opted for a juice as we started our final approach into London's Heathrow. So what were my final thoughts on this epic flight with JAL? Overall, a really good experience. Yes, the 777 was a little bit older, and it'll be nice to see those A350s coming through and eventually replacing this product that you saw on this particular video. That all being said, JAL has the makings of a fantastic airline. The food, the service were absolutely phenomenal, and I'd have absolutely no hesitation whatsoever in booking with them into the future. Guys, I really hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, drop it a like. If you'd like to check out some alternative options for long-haul flights with members of the One World Alliance, you can check out my brand new video of BA's latest product in the bottom left just now. Otherwise, very much looking forward to welcome you to another video real soon.